The Amish have been farming for over 300 years, and they have never once walked into a store to buy seeds. Not because they can't, because they never had to. And by the end of this video, you won't have to either. I'm Sarah, I'm 24, I live in Pennsylvania, about 40 minutes from Lancaster County, and I've spent the last 2 years learning exactly how this works. Let me get straight into it. The first thing you have to understand is why most gardeners keep spending money on seeds every single year and never break that cycle. The answer is hybrid seeds. Walk into almost any garden center, and the majority of what you see on those racks are hybrid seeds. Hybrid seeds are made by crossing 2 different plant varieties together in controlled conditions to create one specific result. Maybe disease resistance, maybe bigger fruit, maybe faster growth. And that first crop from a hybrid seed does perform well. The problem is the seed inside that fruit is broken. If you save it and plant it next year, you will not get the same plant. The traits collapse. You might get something completely unrecognizable. Seed companies know this. That is the business model. You come back every spring. The Amish never fell for this. They grow exclusively what are called heirloom varieties, which are open-pollinated plants that have been passed down through families for at least 50 years, sometimes hundreds. When you save a seed from an heirloom tomato and grow it next year, you get the exact same tomato, same flavor, same size, same everything. The seed breeds true every single time. That's the difference between a seed that sets you free and a seed that keeps you paying. Now here is something most people completely miss when they try to save seeds, and it's the reason their saved seeds underperform. The Amish don't save seeds from just any plant. They watch their garden from the day things sprout. They're looking for one specific plant, the one that came up the strongest, held up the best during a dry stretch or a cold snap, produced the most or the healthiest fruit. They identify that plant early and they mark it, sometimes tying a strip of cloth around it, and from that point, they leave it alone. They don't harvest from it. That plant is not for eating. It's going to produce the next generation of seeds. This is called selective seed saving, and it's one of the most powerful things you can do for your garden long term, because the seeds from a weak plant carry weakness. Seeds from a strong plant carry strength. And every time you do this, your seed stock gets a little bit better and a little bit more adapted to your exact conditions. Let's talk tomatoes first, because this is the one that surprises people the most. The Amish use a fermentation method to save tomato seeds. What that means in practice is this. When your best tomato plant has fully ripe fruit, and I mean completely ripe, you slice it open and squeeze the inner pulp, all that gel and seed, into a glass jar with a small amount of water, just enough to loosen it up. You leave that jar sitting at room temperature for 2 to 3 days. It starts to ferment. A layer of mold or foam forms on top, and that looks wrong, but it's exactly right. That fermentation process breaks down the gelatinous coating that surrounds each tomato seed. That coating contains natural compounds that actually inhibit germination, so removing it matters. After 2 to 3 days, the good viable seeds have sunk to the bottom of the jar. You pour off the liquid and whatever is floating, rinse the seeds well in a colander under cold running water, and spread them flat on a ceramic plate or a piece of glass to dry. Not in the sun, not near a heat source, just room temperature, in a spot with good airflow. They need to stay there until they are completely 100% dry. Any moisture left in those seeds when you store them is how you lose your entire seed collection to mold over winter. Beans and peas are the easiest seeds to save and the best place for any beginner to start. The reason they're so forgiving is that beans and peas self-pollinate. Their flowers actually pollinate themselves before they fully open, so there's almost zero risk of cross-pollination, even if you're growing 2 different bean varieties nearby. For beans, you simply let some pods stay on the plant at the end of the season. Don't harvest them. Let them go completely brown and dry on the vine until they're rattling when you shake them. Amish farmers often pull the whole plant when fall approaches, hang it upside down in a barn, or shed for a few more weeks to finish drying, and then shell the beans out by hand. After shelling, spread them on a flat surface for another week to make sure they're bone dry, and those seeds will stay viable and plantable for 3 to 5 years minimum. Corn is a little more work, but the method is straightforward. The Amish pick out specific ears in their corn rows, the healthiest, best-formed ones from the strongest stalks, and they leave those ears on the plant as long as possible to dry down naturally in the field. Once harvested, they pull the husks back completely, tie the ears together, and hang them somewhere with good air circulation, sometimes right in the kitchen near the wood stove area, where it stays warm and dry for several weeks. When the kernels are completely hard and clicking against each other when you run your thumb across the ear, they shell them off by hand, either rubbing 2 cobs against each other or pressing with their thumbs row by row. One important thing with corn is isolation. Corn is wind-pollinated, meaning pollen travels through the air. If you want to save pure corn seed, you need distance between your corn and any other corn variety growing nearby. The general guideline is at least 1,000 feet from another variety. In practice, many Amish farms handle this naturally because their parcels of land are large enough and surrounded by the same community, all growing the same traditional varieties. But if you're in a suburban backyard, the simplest solution is to grow only one corn variety at a time when you're saving seed. Squash is the one that causes the most confusion, and I want to be completely honest with you about it because it is the vegetable where most first-time seed savers go wrong. Squash cross-pollinate very easily, and they cross within their species. So two different varieties of summer squash, like a yellow crookneck and a zucchini, will cross with each other because they are both the same species. A butternut and a spaghetti squash will also cross because they share the same species classification, but a butternut squash and a zucchini actually belong to different species and will not cross. The Amish handle squash by either growing one variety of each species at a time or by hand pollinating. Hand pollination means going out early in the morning before bees start working, finding a male flower, which sits on a plain thin stem with no tiny fruit behind it, and a female flower, which has that little immature squash sitting right at the base of the petals. You open the male flower, touch its center directly to the center of the female flower to transfer pollen, then twist the female flower petals closed and secure them with a rubber band or a small piece of tape. That sealed flower can't receive any pollen from bees after that. The squash that grows from that flower is your seed squash. You leave it on the vine past eating stage, well past, until the skin is hard and starting to dull. Then you bring it inside and let it cure for another 4 to 6 weeks before cutting it open. Curing is important because the seeds continue maturing inside the fruit even after you've picked it. Then you scoop the seeds, rinse them clean, and dry them completely flat. Cucumbers work the same way when it comes to cross-pollination. Different cucumber varieties will cross, so same rule applies. Grow one variety at a time for seed saving or hand pollinate. The fruit you're saving for seed needs to stay on the vine far longer than anything you'd eat. A cucumber saved for seed turns from green to yellow and then almost orange. That's when the seeds inside are fully mature. Scoop them into a bowl of water, rub them between your palms to break up the gel coating, rinse well, and dry completely flat for a full week. Peppers are one of the most rewarding seeds to save because the process is so simple. Sweet peppers and hot peppers can cross with each other, so if you're saving pepper seed, you want distance between varieties. Around 100 feet is the common guideline. Let your chosen pepper ripen all the way to its final color on the plant, usually red, orange, or yellow depending on the variety. Fully green peppers still have immature seeds inside. Once the pepper has fully colored up and softened slightly, pick it, slice it open, and scrape the seeds out onto a clean, dry plate. Leave them at room temperature for 5 to 7 days, turning them once or twice so they dry evenly. That's it. Now, lettuce is one that most people never even think about saving seed from, but the Amish save it regularly because it's one of the simplest and most reliable crops for seed saving. Lettuce is self-pollinating, so there's almost no cross-contamination risk even if you have multiple varieties growing in the same bed. When spring lettuce is left in the ground past the eating stage and the weather gets hot, it bolts, which means it sends up a tall flower stalk. The Amish let those stalks go. The tiny yellow flowers turn into little fluffy seed heads, almost like a miniature dandelion. When those seed heads start to open and you can see the white fluff forming, you cut the whole stalk and place it upside down inside a paper bag. As the stalk continues drying inside the bag, the seeds fall out on their own and collect at the bottom. After a week or two, you open the bag and the seeds are sitting right there waiting for you. Shake them gently to separate any chaff, and they're ready to store. Here is something else the Amish do that most modern gardeners have no idea about, and it takes maybe 5 minutes but can save you from a frustrating spring. Before they plant any stored seeds, especially seeds that have been sitting for 2 or 3 years, they test germination first. The method is simple. Take 10 seeds from your envelope, lay them on a damp paper towel, fold the towel over them, slide it into a plastic bag, and put it somewhere warm, around 70 degrees, for the amount of days it normally takes that crop to germinate. Tomatoes take 5 to 10 days, beans take 5 to 8, corn takes 5 to 7. After that time, you open the towel and count how many seeds sprouted. If 7 out of 10 sprouted, your germination rate is 70% and those seeds are worth planting. If only 3 sprouted, you know to plant more densely or find fresher seed before the season starts. This is exactly the kind of practical test that prevents you from putting in a full day of garden work only to get almost nothing coming up. Now let's talk about drying and storage properly, because this is honestly where most home seed savers lose everything they worked for. Seeds need to be fully dry before they go into storage. And when I say fully dry, I mean beyond what looks dry. A seed that still has any internal moisture will rot or mold inside a sealed container over winter. The rule the Amish follow is simple. After spreading seeds to dry, leave them for at least 2 weeks at room temperature with good airflow. For thick seeds like beans and corn, even 3 weeks. You should be able to snap a seed cleanly with your fingernail. If it bends, it still has moisture. If it snaps, it's ready. For storage, the Amish use plain paper envelopes, not plastic bags, not Ziplocs, not sealed foil pouches. Paper breathes, which prevents any residual moisture from being trapped. Each envelope gets labeled with 3 things: the variety name, the year it was saved, and sometimes the source, meaning which plant it came from or who gave it to them. Those envelopes go into a tin or a lidded glass jar, which then goes into the coolest and driest spot in the house. A root cellar in Pennsylvania averages between 40 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. That is close to ideal, but even a cool basement corner, a bottom kitchen cabinet away from the stove, or a closet on the north side of the house works well. Now here is the part that really matters if you care about not losing a variety. Different seeds have different shelf lives, and knowing this changes how you manage your collection. Tomato seeds stay viable for up to 6 years when stored properly. Cucumber seeds last 4 to 5 years. Squash seeds last 4 to 6 years. Bean seeds last 3 to 5 years. Corn is a little shorter, 2 to 3 years for most varieties. Pepper seeds last 2 to 4 years. And onion seeds are the shortest of all common vegetables, usually only 1 to 2 years, so you never want to store onion seeds for long. The Amish know these numbers by feel from years of experience. If you keep a simple list taped to the inside of your seed storage box, you'll always know what needs to be grown out and refreshed this season before it gets too old to use. Now the community piece. This is something I think gets completely overlooked when people talk about Amish seed saving, and it's actually one of the most important parts of why the system works so reliably. The Amish don't do this alone. At the end of each growing season, and again in late winter before planting starts, seed envelopes get passed between neighbors and family members. One family's best bean gets traded for another family's best tomato. If someone had a hard year and lost their seed supply to disease or flooding, a neighbor fills the gap. No one starts from zero because the community holds the collection together collectively. This has kept varieties alive in Lancaster County that you cannot find in any commercial catalog anywhere in the country. Specific heirloom tomatoes like the Brandywine, which is a deeply ribbed pink tomato that came to Lancaster County with German settlers in the 1800s, stayed alive specifically because families kept passing seed envelopes to each other year after year. Dragon tongue beans, a yellow and purple streaked heirloom, have been grown in Pennsylvania Amish communities for generations and kept in circulation the same way. These are not products. They are living pieces of history that exist only because somebody decided every year to save rather than buy. And here is the long-term payoff that makes all of this worth doing beyond just saving money. When you save seeds from your garden year after year and grow them out in the same ground, those seeds start to change in the best possible way. Not dramatically, not in ways you'd see in 1 or 2 seasons, but over 5, 6, 7 years of consistent saving and growing, that tomato variety becomes more specifically suited to your soil, your weather patterns, the particular drainage and sun exposure of your piece of land. It performs better in your garden than it would anywhere else because it has been shaped by your conditions season after season. That is exactly what has happened with Amish seed stock in Lancaster County over 300 years. Their corn and beans and squash don't just survive in that climate and soil. They thrive in a way that commercial seed stock simply can't match because the seeds remember the land they came from. Now, if you're watching this and thinking you want to start but you currently have no heirloom seeds at all, here is what you do. You don't need to spend a lot. Most counties in the United States have a seed library, often hosted through the public library system, where you can check out heirloom seeds for free at the start of the growing season and return saved seeds at the end. Many communities also hold annual seed swaps, especially in spring, where gardeners bring their saved seeds and trade. Online platforms connect seed savers across the country, and seeds are often shared for just the cost of a small envelope and a stamp. One season of growing a single heirloom tomato and saving those seeds is your entry point into a system that can supply your entire garden for the rest of your life. So here is where to actually begin. This season, find one heirloom tomato plant. Mark your strongest one. Let one fruit go completely ripe. Use the fermentation method. Dry those seeds. Put them in a labeled paper envelope. Store them somewhere cool and dark. That is the whole first step. Next year, you grow those seeds out, mark the strongest plant again, save from that one. And every year after that, your seeds become more yours, more adapted, more reliable. You are doing exactly what Amish families have done for over 300 years. You're just starting now. If this video gave you something useful, share it with someone who grows food or wants to, and drop a comment below and tell me what you're saving first this season. I genuinely want to hear it.